Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another video. And this is a paid request for RB. Thank you so much for that. For those interested in requesting any type of videos, movie reviews, re-reviews, random thoughts, streams, commentaries, tier lists, rankings, episode reviews, video game playthroughs, whatever the case may be, feel free to send it, and I will get to it as soon as I possibly can. And for those who sent them, thank you. I do appreciate it. And this time it is Dark Side of Comedy, the Artie Lane episode. Now, I've heard of this Dark Side of Comedy stuff because there was Dark Side of the Ring about wrestling, and of course, since that became popular, then you had the Dark Side of Comedy. You got the Dark Side of Sports. I'm sure there's one about movies. If not, there will be the Dark Side of Movies. And, I mean, they are interesting, I will say. Sometimes I wish they were a bit longer because I feel like there's stuff that's missing that they could talk about. But that's just me. But I do like the way, for the most part, they're edited. They get a decent amount of people involved. Like, this is about Artie Lane, which I know of because I've seen some of the movies he's been in. Dirty Work, Beer League, which they never mention. See, that's what I'm talking about. I get it, you're talking about more of the downside, the drug usage and stuff, but you also want to talk a little bit about the career, which they do, where they talk about him as a kid and show some home videos from 1992, and they talk about his dad and how much he loved his dad, and then what happened to his dad, working on Mad TV. This is why sometimes I kind of would say I wish they would do a little bit more like the E! True Hollywood Story and take a pay. Although that at times left stuff out too, to be fair, so they weren't perfect either. But I'm trying to sit there going, how do you go through his up and down lifestyle and not get to the film where he was the major star? I don't know if there was another film he actually was the first on the call sheet, but Beer League was. He did that with Ralph Macchio, the Karate Kid himself. And I remember liking it. I haven't seen it in a long time, but I remember liking Beer League. But he got the star on that. I don't know how the hell you don't mention that, but that's just me. They do mention Dirty Work though, which I remember him in that, where he co-starred with Norm Macdonald. Dave Foley narrates, and the people they got here, they got a chunk of people from Mad TV. So they got Deborah Wilson, Orlando Jones, Ari Spears, some of the people that worked on that early season. They even got Bobby Lee. Now, Bobby Lee didn't appear till many, many years later, but I guess he knows Artie Lane from the stand-up and stuff. They also got Dr. Drew, some of the other people, some people who worked behind the scenes of Howard Stern. That's another way I knew about Artie Lane, is he was on Howard Stern for many upon many years. That's kind of one of the co-stars of the Howard Stern show. And they go through, I did this home video showing of him in 1992, which was cool to see. Talking about his dad and Yankee Stadium, and he tells the story through like these clips on these talk shows, edited together. I thought they did a nice job editing that, where he's like, okay, my dad pushed me like in a nice way, and when the Yankees won, so I could get up there in front, and he knew he'd be lagging behind, and you talk about how you tell he really, really cared for his dad. And his dad was a guy who was a repairman, would get on the roof a lot of times. And then one day his dad fell from the ladder and became a quadriplegic. Then later on eventually died. And that, pretty much the gist of it is that guilt that he wishes he was there, where, I mean, he was at school, so he couldn't be there, but he was kind of the assistant. If he was there to hold the ladder, then his dad wouldn't have fallen, and then his dad would have been fine, and Who knows what could have happened, but he feels guilt about that. I don't know why they didn't get Artie Lane himself to talk about some of this stuff. I mean, you hear his voice, but it's like from interviews and stuff, and he's still with us. Maybe they thought, I don't know. It's just weird. Like, hey, we're doing a show on you. Give us your thoughts on this and this and this situation. I just don't understand. Maybe he said no. Maybe he declined. But if they didn't ask, then be like, well, why not ask since he's still here and you need more insight out of him? But, that's just me. Then it says about how eventually he got into comedy, stand-up, and got on Mad TV. It was cool to see people like Orlando Jones, Deborah Wilson, which I can't help it. I'm so distracted by her fucking nose piercing. I don't get the nose piercing thing. I don't. If you do it, that's fine. To each their own. But I just don't get the nose piercing stuff. I don't get it. It feels like a minute now someone's going to come by and yank it out. So it's distracting to me. But I mean, if it's for you, if you deal with it, that's cool. So oh well. Ari Spears. Although I don't know if I really take what Ari Spears says seriously. I mean, you look at some of these interviews he's done for Live TV, and he took the fucking Saudi money, and then, come on, you act like America is perfect. I'm like, no, America's not perfect, but you know what? America has not cut gay people's heads off, and firing squads. Just saying, and they let women drive a lot sooner, and a little bit of other stuff, just saying. They don't have, not a lot of fucked up things, but, there are people in jail because of a tweet for 20, 30, 40 years, like 20 to 40 years still in prison, just because they tweeted wrong. But yeah, you go ahead, and get that money, Aries, and then you want to suck their dick. Be my guest. A blood-covered dick. Fuck Ari Spears. Anyway, that's my own opinion. If you disagree, to each their own. Fuck Ari Spears. But they talk about some of the skits he did on Mad TV, in particular this Babe/Baywatch parody. And he was doing coke at the same time. And Deborah Wilson, Orlando Jones, they kind of stick up for Artie Lane by saying, man, that was such that skit I wasn't big on, and man, that was like, what's the parody? Is it fat shaming? And then Artie would look and he would do coke and he would kind of see himself in the pig outfit and imagine himself as a pig, and he would go crazy and he went on a bender, and then he did more and more coke and stuff of that nature. And let me just say about that, because I know Chris Rock kind of said the same thing about the Chris Farley skit with Patrick Swayze in Saturday Night Live, which I still think is a funny skit. Number one, you comedians say this, but you were there, and it's like, why didn't you fucking say something then if you had such a big fucking problem with it? Like, Orlando, like, you guys were in the fucking skit. You could have said something right then and there. Like, Deborah Wilson, you were in the skit. You could have said something right there if you had such a big fucking problem with it. It's number one. Number two, you do gotta think that these folks are grown people and make their own choices. If they come at him with this skit about Babe and Baywatch, goes, I'm not doing that. Well, okay, well then what should we do? Okay, how about this? Do a Baywatch parody where there's the oiled up, greasy, studded 6 pack, 8 pack men, and then the women think they're gross, and they go after people like Artie Lane and the others, and I'll be ready to save, but for you to save me. And then you could kind of parody and say, it's about beauty on the inside and all that stuff, or beauty is in the eye of the beholder, or, normal is beautiful. You could word it any way, shape, or form and make it funny. Then say something, talk about it, discuss it. So, I don't know. And like the Chris Farley, no one was laughing because, oh my god, he's a fat guy. He's funny, he's fat. No, they were laughing because they liked his energy and just how into it he was. And people were cheering like, yeah. Because he doesn't care. That was the thing, is about, I don't care how my body is. I'm proud of my body. Look how I'm fucking dancing and stuff. And then the joke was, you think they're going to go for him because he's the underdog, but no, they go for Patrick Swayze because that, in the realistic realm of the world, yes, they would vote for Patrick Swayze because that's the realism of it all. And that was the joke, to play against expectations. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I still like that. I still think that's a sincerely funny skit with Chris Farley. Not because I'm laughing at Chris Farley, though. But I know, like, Chris Rock. Did I say Chris Tucker before? If so, I meant Chris Rock. I know he thinks differently. Same with, I know these guys think differently with it. I mean, this, on the other hand, I didn't think it was a funny skit. That'd be my problem. It just didn't seem like a funny skit. So, like, this, I can understand the complaint more of, just wasn't that funny. Which, yeah, it didn't seem it was that funny, so. It's like, what sounds like babe? So, babe. So, it just seems like a lazy, stupid skit. So, there you go. But yeah, it tells about he OD'd at one point and he attempted to end his life. Then he got into season 2 and already lived with Orlando Jones. Which, it would have been nice to hear about Orlando Jones more. Like, how was it living with Artie? Like, did he have more in depth into that? Talk more about that? How was it living with him? Any funny stories? Or crazy stories when he was living with you? Or I would have delved deeper into that. But then they realized he was using again, and he went on a binge, and he read some stuff in the store and got arrested. And Orlando Jones does tell a funny story where he heard Artie Lane yell at the cops, "It's okay, you can beat me, I'm not black." And Orlando Jones, like, you could tell he got a complete kick out of that. Like, you could tell, at least it seems like, Orlando Jones and Deborah Wilson really did care for Artie Lane. Now, Deborah Wilson, I don't know about her. She seems... Something about her seems flaky. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's just something about her seems flaky. I don't know what it is. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Orlando Jones, though, seems like a cool guy. I like Orlando Jones. You really didn't hear a whole lot from Ari Spears after that. Bobby Lee, you didn't, because, I mean, he didn't work with, he was on Mad TV, but many, many years later, so he never worked on Mad TV. That's why I was a bit surprised they got Bobby Lee. But, I thought there was going to be a bit more of Bobby Lee later on, like maybe he worked with Artie Lane somehow, in stand-up it would have been. But you kind of just heard him at the beginning, and then maybe 1 or 2 times later on, and that's it. Although Bobby Lee, I don't know, he's another guy that I mean, he has no morals. He just will take the money wherever, and that's it. That's just how he is. So I don't really have any respect for the guy. I liked his podcast with Bad Friends with Andrew Santino, but I don't really listen to it anymore. They don't need me. They got all that Saudi Arabia money. Be my guest. Oh, you being? I don't give a fuck. I'm don't mean what I say and say what I mean. That's just how I am. But yeah, the apparently there was talks of him coming back, and the studio and the network wanted him back, but the cast said no. If you bring Artie Lane back, we're leaving, because they wanted him to get better and not feed into his addiction. Not that it fucking worked, because he still continued to be addicted anyway. Because what happened was there was an intervention. He gets arrested after an intervention. Now he's gone from the show. He moves back to his mom's place. Dirty work. And sadly, they don't talk a whole lot about dirty work. Just that he was in it. But I don't know when this was made. It might have been made before Norma. It might have been made after Norma Macdonald passed away. I don't know the year this was made in, but and Bob Saget passed away. But it would have been nice to hear about the making of Dirty Work. How was he on set? Like anybody from the film. Same with Beer League. How was it? Again, I don't know why you don't delve more into him working on the film Dirty Work, or delve into him starring in a film like Beer League. I get that there's only a certain amount of time, but still, I think that would have been nice to look into a bit. But apparently Norm Macdonald helped Artie Lane get the Howard Stern gig. Because Norm Macdonald invited Artie Lane to Howard Stern. Howard Stern liked him. Hey, why don't you come back? And then Artie Lane was a big Howard Stern fan growing up. Him and his dad would listen to Howard Stern back in the day. And so then he was just happy. And then it shows his experience on Howard Stern. And it jumped quite a bit of years, because he was on there for, 13 years? And then you only have this short amount of time, so show like a clip here and a clip there, and him yelling at this guy ready to fight him, and I still don't really know why that happened. It was a clip like there was some guy, and Artie got up, and is like coming towards him, and you hear Robin, the girl with Howard, the co-host, stop, close the door. And I'm like, so what the fuck happened? Like, why did this happen in the first place? And Orlando Jones, he mentions how it seemed like they were exploitive. I mean, yes, I could buy Howard Stern would push that needle more and more forward to get his. If I nudge him over here, he'll give me something that will be entertaining, that will help with ratings or help with interest or help people keep listening. At the end of the day, you still have to be your own person. You still have to be your own individual. You still have to be your own, you know, you still have to stand on your own 2 feet. But do I think Howard Stern was a part of it? Sure. Because Howard Stern is another two-faced prick. He's a guy I wouldn't trust with a 10-foot pole. Because he'd probably fall and stick up his ass or something. But yeah. I guess Howard Stern, It's kind of weird that Howard Stern. I'm assuming they did ask him, but he said no. I think there's like one or two behind the scenes people who worked on Stern. But it is interesting that Howard Stern or Robin wouldn't talk. I didn't whether they were asked or not. I would assume they would have been asked, and if so, they said no. I mean, well, that's pretty interesting. And it goes into Dr. Drew and okay, this guy definitely has something where he feels responsible for not being there for his dad who fell from the ladder and was a quadriplegic. And then there was another point where Artie tried to end his life with his 13-inch knife. And whether at least another, he's let go from Howard Stern. Orlando Jones, his bit was heartbreaking where, well, I mean, he says it broke his heart because it's not his fault. It was never his fault. And how some people do have those things that happen back to the day and they can't overcome it. It fixates them and becomes a virus that spreads throughout your psyche, throughout your body, throughout your mind. And it's easier said than done to overcome that. Much easier said than done. Some to this day may not know it, but they'll have violent impulses, violent thoughts, violent something that happens, and they'll think it's just they had a bad day, and then they don't realize that there's something deeper that they haven't let go yet. They go into a little bit of the nose thing because his nose is all fucked up, and apparently the story is he used a salt shaker to break pills, but the salt shaker broke, and so he was so out of it when he sniffed in the pill, he also sniffed some of the glass, so the glass got in the nose, and then they had to do surgery, and that's how his nose was. Now, at the time of this, it said he was 3 years sober. That, yeah, I have this nose, but it's a reminder of what I did and what I can't do again. Um, I mean, I don't know what happened to him. I really don't. Hopefully he'll keep on keeping on. Hopefully he'll keep on being clean and sober. So I was just curious. I know there's that dirty work. I was just seeing if he was actually on. Well, there's a 63-minute making of. So I don't know if he's on that or not. And there's a lot of features on this. I mean, I know there's that other cut of the film, but it's only a minute difference. I'm like, well, how much different is 1 minute of a difference? You know what I mean? Like, if it's only a minute long difference. But I don't know. I mean, maybe that's deceiving. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe one day I have to pick this up. It's just this stuff is just too expensive. Almost $40 just for that. I mean, I'm going off tangent. But yeah, I'll say this with Artie Lane. I mean, I didn't follow his stand-up or anything. What bits and things I've seen of him, he seemed pretty funny. What is showed at the last, I guess part of his, I guess like community hours, the stuff you have to do. He was like pumping gas for someone, and someone did the thing where they gave him a tip, but you gotta read the back. Don't use for drugs. Okay, yeah. Which, I mean, on one hand seems like, wow, that seems really shitty and flippant, but the way it was handled, it seemed pretty funny. Like more fun, good natured than it would sound like. So that was funny, and just it seemed like it was from a case of care, like they care about the person. Maybe not. Maybe I'm blowing smoke up an ass that doesn't allow that, but you know, I mean, the guy definitely has gotten enough chances by fate. I mean, to OD and then with a knife and you're still around, glass up your nose, you're still around. You know, it's like, hey, there's a lot of other people that are not around and have lived a lot longer than you. I mean, it's crazy. You think of all the stuff Artie Lange has done to his body, and he's still here while Bob Saget and Norma Downard are not. The best thing would be if all three of them were still around. But it's just interesting that of the three, he's the guy still around. So, sometimes you never know. I just want to be honest. Sometimes you never know. So again, it was interesting to watch this stuff, interesting to hear about, and it's well edited. See all the different footage of the Howard Stern appearances and the Mad TV skits and all that other stuff. Some stand-up bits here and there when he's on the talk shows. Goes by a good pace, well edited. I think Vice does a good job with their programs on that nature. Again, I just wish it was a bit longer. I wish they delved. I know it's about the dark side, the addiction and stuff, but it still would have been nice to hear the perspective of, you know, how was it on the set of Dirty Work? How was it on Beer Lead? Maybe Ralph Macchio. How was it working with Artie Lange? And talk with Ralph Macchio. Why Artie Lange can't talk about some of the stuff himself to reflect on stuff. The ups and downs. I don't really, again, unless he said no. Maybe he did. Unless maybe probation, maybe he's not allowed. Maybe there's some kind of, because I don't know how long, how many years that is. Maybe there's still a thing where he's not allowed to do. I don't know for certain. But this was cool to watch still. Very interesting stuff. So for anyone watching, feel free to let me know any favorite Artie Lange moments or stuff. Feel free to mention them in the comments. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you guys in that video. Bye-bye for now.